I've always liked digging through old junk. Thrift stores, flea markets, estate sales. You never know what you'll find. Last month, I bought a box of random stuff at a garage sale near campus. Old books, dusty trinkets, nothing special. But at the very bottom was an old camera, heavy, metal, still loaded with film. Curiosity got the better of me. I found a lab downtown that still developed film, dropped it off, and didn't think much about it. When I went back to pick up the photos, the guy at the counter gave me a strange look. He handed me the envelope like it was something toxic, and when I opened it, my blood ran cold. The photos were old. Faded shots of people in vintage clothes, cars that hadn't been on the road for decades, buildings that looked younger than I'd ever seen them. But one picture stopped me cold. In the middle of a grainy street scene, there I was, same face, same build, same jacket I had on that very day. I laughed nervously at first, telling myself it was a trick of the light, or maybe someone who just looked like me. But the more I stared, the less I could deny it. It wasn't just similar, it was me. And as I shuffled through the rest of the stack, my stomach dropped even further. There were more pictures, not just on the street, but in places I knew. The university library, my dorm building, even the very desk in my room, all of them taken decades ago, and in nearly every shot. I was there. I spent hours staring at those photographs, trying to convince myself there was an explanation. Maybe it was Photoshop, some elaborate prank. Maybe the lab had mixed up my order. But no, the photos were old, worn, the kind that crack when you bend them. The paper itself felt brittle, yellowed by time. And then I saw something worse. Some of the pictures weren't of the past. They were of things that hadn't happened yet. One showed me walking into the coffee shop down the street, but in the background was a poster for an event that hadn't happened yet. Another showed me sitting in class, wearing a shirt I hadn't even bought. It was like the film was predicting my life, frame by frame. And in the later photos, I noticed something new. At first, it was just a blur in the corner, a smudge of darkness. But as the pictures went on, that shadow grew clearer, closer, standing right behind me. By the fourth night, I couldn't sleep. The photos were spread out across my desk, each one worse than the last. The shadow behind me wasn't just a blur anymore. It had shape, shoulders, arms, a face I couldn't quite make out, like it was always just out of focus. In one picture, I was sitting on my bed, reading. The shadow stood in the doorway. In another, I was brushing my teeth. The shadow's reflection stood behind me in the mirror, though the bathroom had been empty. And in the last photo of the roll, I was asleep. The shadow stood right beside the bed. I dropped the pictures, my chest tight, my hands shaking. Whoever or whatever was taking these photos, they were inside my room, inside my life. That night I shoved the photos into a drawer and locked it, telling myself I'd burn them in the morning. But just after 3 a.m., a sound jolted me awake. Click. The unmistakable snap of a camera shutter. I sat up, heart hammering, and saw it, the old camera. the one I'd hidden in my closet. It was sitting on my desk, pointed directly at me. My breath caught. Slowly I stood and approached. The camera was on, though it had no film inside. Yet when I leaned closer, the lens wasn't reflecting the room around me in real time. It was delayed. A perfect mirror of my room, but a second late. And in that warped reflection, I saw myself staring back, and someone else, a pale figure standing behind me, closer with every flicker. I spun around, nothing there. When I looked back at the camera, the figure had moved. Now it was inches from my shoulder in the reflection. In blind panic, I grabbed the camera and hurled it into the trash outside my dorm. I stood there in the cold night air, shaking, telling myself it was over. But the next morning, when I woke up, it was back, sitting neatly on my desk. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Inside was a fresh strip of film, already developed. Only one photograph. It showed me asleep in my bed the night before, and looming over me, crystal clear this time, was the figure. Its face pale, eyes hollow, mouth stretched into a crooked smile. I dropped the photo, heart racing, but before I could even move, the camera in my hands clicked again. Another picture slid out, black, empty, except for one thing scrawled across the bottom in jagged letters. You were never alone.